What's going on? Dylan Conrad, Metabolic Mama Secrets. Today I'm talking to you about strength training. Is it the holy grail in terms of hormone optimization for mamas, women in specific too? Before I get into that, if you're watching this on YouTube, please like, subscribe, turn notifications on, Spotify, iTunes, hit that bell button, write a review, follow me. All helps the algorithm, helps me help more moms like you. So strength training in the traditional sense is... I like to talk about traditional strength training instead of like the strength training classes you see at gyms. So what most people will interpret as strength training is anything that uses weight training or resistance training, right? That can even be body weight, it could be weights, it could be stuff like that. How I describe strength training is basically working in a set in parameters of what is like a strength phase in an exercise program created. So typically it's between 2 to 5 sets, anywhere from like, if you're going to power train, probably like 6 to 12 reps, with like, depending on how if you're supersetting it, anywhere between 45 seconds to like 3 minutes rest, between exercises. And so the way most people describe it is like anything that you're using like resistance training, but they'll do like a circuit. That's pretty shitty for your hormones. Like the worst thing you can do for your hormones is running, specifically for your cortisol, because it is so like it's basically a repetitive movement and a lot of stress on your system. If you're doing a class, you're basically doing that repetitive movement, right? You're not obviously doing like, you're basically working in the same energy zone and intensity zone the entire time. How I like it is basically you have a hard push, high intensity with the strength training exercise you're doing. So say you're doing push-ups, you're doing them elevated, but you're doing like, you could do 10 reps for sure, but you're going into failure for like 12 reps. That 12 rep, you basically cannot get up anymore. That would be like a high intensity exercise, right? And so I like to use that high intensity, right? And then no intensity on the rest period, just like really chilled out, not doing like planks between exercises, like not dancing around, like literally just like sitting down and resting. And then going back into strength training, exercise, and then resting again. So that is how I'm talking about traditional strength training, which I just want to clear up. And so why is it so superior in other training modalities? The reason why is because of that interval, right? That high intensity, low intensity, alternating intensities throughout the exercise, which the reason why it's great for all hormonal imbalances is because if you look at, thyroid dysfunction, higher level thyroid, progesterone, estrogen, any of these common hormonal imbalances we're looking at, and if you listen to my podcast, like you've heard this before, it all starts with cortisol optimization. So if your cortisol's off, this will all be off. But if you can fix your cortisol, you can mostly fix that at all, or you can start attacking them one by one after you fix the cortisol. Because even if you like try to just fix thyroid, but you don't fix cortisol, you're kind of fucked, right? You're just like fighting an uphill battle. So the strength training is so good for your cortisol levels, in optimizing because of that high intensity, low intensity alternating during the actual exercise. So also traditional high intensity intervals, like if you're doing like say a spin bike, you crank that MF resistance up as high as you can, you pedal as hard as you can for 20 to 30 seconds, like all out, and then you take all the resistance off and you rest for like 30 to 40 seconds, and you keep doing that. Intervals are also really good for cortisol optimization. So strength training, it's great. Should you be doing it? So it really just depends. And I would say, obviously if you want to optimize your hormones, you should be doing it, but if you don't like it, you're not going to stick to it, right? So I would start with like, do you like strength training? Do you like lifting weights, right, and resting? That's number one, right? Is it realistic for you to carve out time? Usually strength training, you could probably get away with breaking up like 15-minute sessions throughout the day, but is that realistic to do? Is it realistic for you to follow a program for 4 weeks, which is typically like the blocks that I write my clients' programs in? If you answered yes to those two, or if you answered no to those two, so if you answered no to those two, then don't do strength training. But if you answered yes, and you also want to really optimize your cortisol, I would say 1000% do strength training. It's super fun. It's cool. What you should do is basically write a block. How I do is I'll write a block of exercises, 3 days, whatever my client's split is. So I would say no more than 4 times per week strength training, but 3 to 4 times per week is optimal. and you write exercise A, that's one day. Exercise B, it's another day. Exercise C, that's another day, right? And so what you do is you take A, B, and C. You do those exercises. You record all your weights. Make sure you're taking the allotted rest periods, and then the next week, your goal is to create some overload by going up in weight, by making the exercise that you're doing more difficult. So if you're doing push-ups elevated, maybe you take the elevation down a little bit. What I'd also recommend is taking your last set to complete failure. So what that will look like is, and that will just get the intensity high as possible. And what that will look like is basically, you pick a weight you could do for 10 reps, or if you're doing push-ups, you pick a level you can do for 10 reps, and then you just do as many as you can. And when you cannot lift yourself up anymore, then you are basically, that's muscular failure. Adding tempos into it is great, like 3 seconds drop, 1 second up, pause on the bottom, pause on the top. Stuff like that is also really good to add into it. But basically, you choose those 3 days split, and then you progress to the next week, you progress to the next week, progress to the next week. Obviously, this shit doesn't matter if you don't like it, because you're not going to be consistent with it. But if you're someone who actually does enjoy it, maybe you need a little bit of accountability, hit up a coach right here. Hi, you can hit up a coach to create obviously a more customized program, which there should be a very scientific approach and customization approach in your specific workout. I've spent the great majority of my career coaching it and creating programs, and also learning about how to create them. And I have a degree in kinesiology and exercise science. So it is hard. If you can create it on your own, great. If you can get a random template online, better. If you can actually get it work with a coach and do one-on-one and make sure you're accountable for doing it, that's going to be optimal for you. So hope this helps. Start with strength training if you actually like it and it's realistic. Optimize cortisol. I recommend taking, you could do blood tests in the morning or saliva tests, but I more so recommend doing a questionnaire to see if you do have high or low, or high and low cortisol. That questionnaire, you can hit me up on social media at Dylan A. Conrad, and I will get you that form you can fill out, and I'll just have a quick review with you and tell you what's what based on that questionnaire. Because the questionnaire is going to be black and white. There's too much variability in blood work and saliva tests. The questionnaire is number one. The blood and saliva for the cortisol are to support that. So hope this helps. Love y'all. Happy whatever day you're watching.